What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the film room. Another special edition, a Sunday night edition after a long day of football, but stress-free football. And in this episode, we're going to be joined by Chris Trapasso from CBS. Chris, welcome back into the film room, buddy.
Dude, I'm so excited to be here to break down this Bills win, talk a little defense and Josh Allen. We're in that super important and very fun time of the year around the holidays where we've been talking about, try to get right for the end of the season, for the regular season, the playoffs. Now we're getting into that stretch run before the playoffs. That's so fascinating. A lot of different storylines are going to materialize over the next couple weeks.
No doubt about it, man. As I said, a stress-free Sunday. Got to watch some really good games today, and there's some still finishing right now. I'm sure we'll be joined by a few more people after these games end. But any takeaways in regards to some of those big games that we saw today?
Yeah, that certainly the Dolphins didn't come out and score 30 points in the first half like they seemingly have done a lot of the last month and a half. They were facing a really good 49ers defense, arguably the best defense in the NFL, without Austin Jackson, their former first-round pick right tackle, who is kind of a bust of a left tackle, and then Teron Armstead, their big ticket item at left tackle. I mean, of course, any team in the Bills have gone through this. They just had David Quisenberry having to play a fair amount at left tackle against the Patriots. Yeah. Any team not having their starting left tackle and their right tackle is going to have some more limitations and problems with their offense. But I think that was kind of an underrated storyline. We were all talking about Mike McDaniel and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and those were the key reasons why Tua broke out. I thought the offensive line in these first 9 or 10 games for Tua that he started and finished was kind of protecting him similarly to what he had at Alabama when he was so highly touted as a prospect. So not the best matchup for the Dolphins to go into that game in San Francisco against Nick Bosa and company without that, what had previously been a very healthy offensive line. And like we've all said that at this point of the season, no team is 100% healthy, but the Dolphins came into week 13 decently healthy, but they weren't able to get those two blockers. And I think you see, and that I witnessed, especially in that first half when I watched most of that game, Tua's limitations just as an improvisational quarterback, what he can do off structure when he's pressured. And he just really has not been pressured very frequently this season behind that much improved offensive line.
Yeah, of course, they're a team that likes to run a lot of those play-action passes and push the ball down the field. Now, it's tough to do that when you don't have some of your main cogs up front. Injury on the other side for the Niners, too. Jimmy G going down.
First quarter.
Brock Purdy comes in, and as we talked about, man, Kyle Shanahan somehow is able to pick up the pieces and still, compete on the offensive side of the ball and get some points on the board. If there's any offense that can withstand an injury at the quarterback position, it's Kyle Shanahan's, right?
Yeah, everything that he does from a play design perspective, play calling, and then what he's assembled, like I think it's kind of similar to the Bills, that the 49ers have not only just built a good offense, they've married their personnel with their play caller and their head coach and Kyle Shanahan. So many of those players, even going down to Juwan Jennings, so good after the catch, where you can dink and dunk and kind of do what Tom Brady did for a large part of his 20 years of dominance in the AFC East. Get it out quickly, mitigate the pass rush, use the quick game, and let your skill position players truly thrive after the catch. So you're right. To plug in Mr. Irrelevant in a huge game against an 8-3 Dolphins team. And from what I've seen, we're not watching it now at the end, but Brock Purdy looked like a veteran. He looked like Brian Hoyer. He looked like Nick Mullins, those other lesser talented quarterbacks that have actually been pretty efficient in Kyle Shanahan's offense.
Yeah, we just got an update on the game. McCaffrey just got a 30-yard run to probably ice the game. 49ers are up 23-16 with a few to go in Dolphins territory. So that's hopefully that stays the course there, and the Niners are able to pull out that win versus the Dolphins. So let's talk about a win by the Bills. That's why we're here. That's why we're in the film room. We're going to talk a little defense. We're going to talk some offense and then get into the film. So I want to start on the defensive side. Obviously, a really big win for the Bills against New England. Night game. I thought the defense played really well. The team overall. Let's talk the coaching real quick. Their ability to withstand all this adversity the last 3 games, with travel, with the holidays, like a lot of different things. We're pulling these players and coaches in different directions. But third game in 12 days, and that right there is a testament to this staff. And I thought that you can't mention that enough, right, Chris? Like that is just phenomenal coaching.
Yeah, I think it's part of why, I mean, maybe just a little part, but part of why the Bills were Super Bowl favorites going into the season. You could look at them and say, they had better balance than any other of the elite teams, maybe a better defense in Kansas City on paper. And certainly they have had one this season, the Dolphins, other teams like that. But also the fact that they have been there, they have a very congealed unit of a lot of the same players that have played against the Texans in the playoffs, that played against the Chiefs in the AFC title game, that were in that divisional round game last year, that have dealt with losing to the Jaguars and losing in overtime to Tom Brady and bouncing back and the Hail Mary play against the Arizona Cardinals in 2020. I think that was part of it, that this is not a team that is going to be deer in headlights when things start to go south in October or November. We've seen those lulls from the Bills. We've seen them from the Chiefs. We've seen them from other teams. The Rams had a losing streak last year and they went on to win the Super Bowl. The Bengals lost to the Jets last season. There were a lot of times where the Bills have had those adversity stretches. And I think what they were able to do in the past has allowed them to learn from, hey, look, you're going to have adversity. Here's how you deal with it. And to go 3-0 in those three, road games essentially in 12 days is monumental. If you look at the NFL slate every single week, you can look at odds and you can look at what the point spread is there. It truly is any given Sunday. There's more parity than ever before. So you can say, hey, they didn't beat three of the best teams in the NFL, but any team in the NFL, if you said you need to play 3 games in 12 days and they're all on the road, any team would gladly accept that. So I think the adversity part of the Bills, like you're mentioning with coaching, just organizational management, and how the offense and defense have been able to come out of kind of a slump, win those 3 games, and now they're right on track at the perfect time of the season.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And, we talked about some of the adversity that some of the other teams today had faced with injuries, and the Bills on the defensive side, obviously dealing with Von Miller being out for at least the next 4 games. So let's start on that side of the ball. But let's start off with, what you thought about the defensive side. Maybe a standout player from this game. Who caught your eye when you went back and watched the film?
My standout player on the defensive side was AJ Epinesa. I didn't really hear a lot about him. I know Daquan Jones played really well. Shaq Lawson had a very good game, especially as a run defender, and that's really where he thrives. Yes. But what I thought was interesting is AJ Epinesa kind of moved into that Von Miller role, essentially, where certainly Von Miller is a 3-down defensive end. He's a great run defender. He's always been a great run defender. AJ Epinesa had 19 snaps against the Patriots, and 18 of them came on pass play. So they said, look, don't worry about the run stuff. Just get after the quarterback. And there were some injuries on the Patriots offensive line, but for the most part, AJ Epinesa was in one-on-one situations with Trent Brown. And he's not the left tackle he was 3 or 4 seasons ago when he was a Pro Bowler, but he still is one of the better pass blocking left tackles in the NFL. And he's massive. He's like 6'8", 350 pounds. He's a lot more at home in New England than he was with the Raiders. And he had 3 pressures on those 18 pass rushing snaps. A few other times got close to Mac Jones, maybe didn't register a pressure. But for someone that I think has actually been decently disappointing as a former second-round pick, kind of came to life, AJ Epinesa, with the pass rushing moves, with the power, with the bend around the corner, and the ability to finish. He had the sack in the red zone of Mac Jones. He really stood out to me in, hey, this is a game that we need AJ Epinesa. That's what the coaches were telling them. I thought he really stood up in a truly difficult matchup when some of the other guys inside were playing against backups or maybe not 100% players in terms of their health. Facing Trent Brown is not an easy task as a pass rusher. And I thought AJ Epinesa had a really good night.
Yeah. And, with Brown, yes, he's not the same, offensive player that he was years ago, but he's a big guy. But most of all, he's like long. And so he can win first touch. He can win first touch quite often. And I thought you're right. I agree with you. Epinesa did flash a lot, as we can see some of the stats from PFF. Epinesa, as you said, man, 18 pass rush snaps, 1 versus the run, and 1 in coverage where he dropped out from a 2-point stance. With him this year, the issue, and it's been floating around this last couple weeks, it's missing tackles. And we did see he probably could have had another sack of Mac Jones in this game because Mac Jones just squirted out of that tackle again. And it's something that for some reason this year, Epinesa is just missing a handful of tackles this year, and it's adding up. I think he's the worst. He has the worst tackle rate on the team when you look at some of his stats.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
he's missing 63.6% of his tackles. So, yeah, that's leading on the team by far. So, yeah, I agree, man. I thought he stood out rather well. Most of the defensive linemen, I got to give props as a unit because regardless of who was in there, they were creating pressure. I mean, the Bills pressured Mac Jones, 39.5% of the time of his dropbacks. So they did a good job coming in waves. And as you said, yes, there were some injuries up front for the Patriots, but it was still nice to see those guys, like you said, Epinesa, Boogie Basham, Jones, Oliver, and Shaq Lawson, again, with his hustle, creating, some of those disruptions that they needed to against Mac Jones. So aside from the pass rush, let's talk about some pass coverage stuff that kind of came up prior to the game with Kaiir Elam, the Bills' first-round pick. What were your thoughts on him being a healthy scratch? According to reports, he was a healthy scratch, not on the injury report all week. Obviously, had been dealing with an ankle injury prior to this game and last week, and during the game last week, and he's not 100%. I think we all know that. But it looks like he had been benched. But so I want to get your opinion on that. You watch a lot of film, and I'm sure you've looked at Elam week in and week out. Did you see anything on film that you would have expected or that Elam was going to be benched or sat down in favor of Xavier Rhodes?
I didn't see anything in particular that would have warranted Kaiir Elam being benched. It kind of feels like it was more of a procedural thing than anything else, where, like you mentioned, that he was maybe pretty dinged up, but he practiced all week, wasn't on the injury report. So then, like, the Bills couldn't say that he was injured, and that's why he didn't play. And it really could be that Sean McDermott wanted Xavier Rhodes to get some run. That it has been a revolving door in that secondary this season. And Kaiir Elam's gotten probably more time in coverage than the Bills were expecting early this season.
Right.
Christian Benford, who's on IR, he's played a ton. Dane Jackson, of course. So I think, if anything, it was maybe just, hey, look, let's get Xavier Rhodes kind of up to speed with what we want to do in coverage, more so than anything else. I did notice, and this is kind of where I think there was kind of an injury lingering. Against the Lions on Thanksgiving, he didn't look quite as twitchy as what I remember watching in Florida and earlier in the season. Some of the press man plays, he didn't look as quick getting off the line, and I know he's dealing with an ankle injury. Right. So maybe that was it. I haven't noticed any like egregious tackling issues. I mean, a lot of young rookie corners, they deal with tackling issues, and I certainly know that Sean McDermott is a stickler for that. But he hasn't like stood out and been an extreme liability as a tackler on the outside. If anything, and again, this is just a guess, it was really just, hey, you're not really that close to 100%. We've started to utilize Xavier Rhodes a little bit. You guys have all gotten a lot of time out there in the first, 2/3 of the season. Let's get Xavier Rhodes out there. We feel comfortable with Trey White playing in almost full capacity against the Patriots. Yeah. This is not, the highest level passing offense that the Bills are going to see. So to me, I don't think it was a benching. That's no inside sources or anything on that. I didn't see anything on film that's like, oh, that's probably why Sean McDermott put Kaiir Elam to the bench. It's just really this heavy rotation that we've seen from the secondary. And I think just in this situation, Kaiir Elam had to be a healthy scratch instead of just being that 5th or 6th cornerback out there.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, as soon as it happened, were thinking that, hey, maybe they wanted to go more zone heavy, and that's not necessarily Elam's strength. Well, Elam actually hasn't been that bad in zone coverage, according to PFF.
I don't think so either, yeah.
12 receptions on 16 targets for 138 yards and no touchdowns given up. He's forced, one incompletion in zone. So I don't think that's the reason. I think, if anything, if it was an actual benching, that it was likely catch your breath, like step back, catch your breath, get your health together, because
rookie wall too. He could be hitting the rookie wall.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I still didn't see it on film, and I don't think they should have been threatened. Like, hey, if he plays, maybe Belichick and Matt Patricia are going to go after him. I don't think they have those type of threats, and I just want him playing. I want him playing and getting all the experience he can get, so that when it does come later in the year and those big moments do arise, they can count on him to be in there. They won't have second thoughts about him being in there. So that was kind of disappointing to see from that standpoint. But, in the end, when it comes to the defensive side, especially the secondary, I always do trust them when it comes to that, those positions and that side of the ball. And another guy that was back this game, though, for the Bills, Tremaine Edmunds, and he's obviously a polarizing figure when it comes to Billsmafia. And I want to get your thoughts as someone, again, who studies a lot of film. Let us know and fill us in on some areas that you think he's improved this year. And the big question is, where are you right now with the extension and maybe possibly signing him long term?
Tremaine Edmunds has improved, in my opinion, and I want to hear what you think too, because I know that you watch a ton of Bills film as well. How quickly he's not just reading his keys, but reacting to them. There's way less hesitation. I think I was in this film room last year, right around this same time, or actually maybe 2 years ago, and we both noted that Matt Milano, you could see that Milano was like a half second earlier recognizing, oh, there's that pulling guard. We got to get downhill. And it was Edmunds could get there a little bit faster because he's got those long strides. He has a huge tackling radius. Edmunds was always like, oh, yeah, okay. This year, I think Edmunds is like, I'm 4,600 snaps into this defense. I trust what I see, and I just go. And it seems overly simplified, but I really think that was the one problem with Tremaine Edmunds early in his career. And it led to a lot of the missed tackles where he was, a quarter of a step behind. And instead of it being a pop in the hole, it was an arm tackle attempt where a better running back could sneak out of his grasp. So I think we're seeing a lot more confident, assertive Tremaine Edmunds. We always talk about how young he is, but he has played over 4,600 snaps now in Sean McDermott's defense. That's crazy. We're just seeing him say, hey, look, I'm reading this key and I'm going. I mean, occasionally, like all linebackers, he can be fooled by play action or misdirection, but way less hesitation. And I remember in that 2018 draft class, that was my one concern with him coming out of Virginia Tech, that he was this physical freak. He was like ridiculous watching him play middle linebacker at 6'5", 250, but he was always like a split second behind everyone else moving on the field. Now he's one of the first guys reacting to what's happening. And in terms of my stance on him, I've said this, this is me being a broken record. From watching film from his rookie season on, I've always said that whatever PFF says grade-wise, and I love PFF. I'm not here to bash PFF about
them every day.
Their coverage grades. Yeah, absolutely. But whatever their coverage grades say, I think it's hard to really quantify what Tremaine Edmunds does on the plays that the throws that don't go in his direction. I've always said it, being 6'5", 250 pounds with the long arms and how fast and athletic he is, he stops a lot of throws from going over the middle, literally just by being in the middle of the defense. That we see so many seam throws to these athletic tight ends today. And when you think about it, you don't see it very frequently against the Bills, just that seam throw right down the middle, because Tremaine Edmunds being 6'5" is there. And the fact that he can run, and he's always been able to run with running backs, with tight ends, I think that in and of itself is so valuable to this defense. And now that you're getting much better run stopping play, he's not missing as many tackles because he's playing faster. I think it's really hard to find a legitimate 3-down middle linebacker in today's NFL who actually excels in coverage and is not, scared in coverage. I think you almost have to extend Tremaine Edmunds, maybe not write him a blank check, but not lowball him either, because I think he's that important to the Bills defense. And we've seen how the defense suffers when he's not on the field this season.
Yeah, we're getting some updates in the chat room that the Bills are currently the number one seed, top seed mafia, Chris says.
Bengals beat the Chiefs. Wow.
No, I agree. I've gotten to the point now. It's pay Tremaine, pay the man. If you haven't noticed the difference of this defense when he's in and out of lineup, I don't know how else to show you guys that are non-believers. That the second half in that Vikings game should have been the clincher all in itself. He's covering Thielen on deep overs and down the field. He's covering Osborne on those, again, those routes down the seam, like you said, those in-breaking routes with ease. And like, as you said, he's such a long strider. He can do that quite easily. It's almost like 60% him running. He's not running 100%. I agree with you on his processing. That is definitely catching up with him, with his speed itself, his natural and physical speed. Leveraging runs and passes. He's been so much better with his angles. And again, that does start with that K and D, that key and diagnosis of the play and leveraging the ball. He's done such a great job of doing that. And as you said, his tackling is phenomenal. He's one of the better tacklers on the team, especially when you consider missed tackle rate. He's one of the lowest on the team, if not the lowest. And that's because he's always in a better position and under control so much more than he was in prior years. Because as you said, he's not that half a click behind. Dude, on all accounts, I completely agree with you on that when we're talking about Edmunds. So with that said, man, I wanted to share with you guys who our sponsor is of this show, and that's Nickel City Cigars. If you haven't been down there yet, that is on 284 Franklin Street. It's a new school boutique cigar experience for all of your allocated rare artisanal cigar needs. So if you go to nickelcitycigars.com and use the code COVER1, cover the number 1, you'll get 20% off your order. And then you can go in the store and do the same thing and use the same code and get 20% off. A lot of local beer there, some bourbon. So you can pick up some of your cigars, hang out, watch some games on all their TVs. They have some vintage arcade games. So it's a cool, like, boutique type cigar experience. Again, Nickel City Cigars, sponsor of Cover One, the film room. Get to their website, get in there, and use the code Cover1. So with that said, the transition, Chris, we're going to go to the offensive side of the ball now. And so I want to talk about this game versus the Patriots from the top down. I thought the creativity from Dorsey was phenomenal. A lot of eye candy, a lot of motion, a lot of shifting, a lot of personnel grouping, stuff that we've been wanting to see from him. And we started to see some of that in this game. So I want to get your thoughts specifically, though, about the running back position. So the split and the use of, James Cook and Devin Singletary and their usage in that creative type element. We talked about Shanahan and how creative he is. I do think Dorsey sees some of what he does and he's trying to mimic it.
Yeah. So what I think is really fascinating is that forever in football, in the NFL, the way to have a complementary running back field is you need the thunder and lightning. You need the big Zach Moss back, and then you need a smaller back. What really in today's NFL, I think, is the best way to have that 1-2 punch that's legitimately complementary is have your lateral quickness guy, your sideline or your side-to-side runner, and that's Devin Singletary, and then your explosive home run back, and that's James Cook. I think that throws a defense off more than, hey, we have this, fullback type running back who's just going to lower his head and try to get 4 yards, and then someone that's shifty, because they have completely different running styles. I love Devin Singletary's vision. I think he truly, from side to side, he's an elite lateral quickness running back in the NFL. Yeah. And James Cook, and we can certainly talk more about him, coming out of Georgia, I did not like his vision between the tackles. I thought that is what separated him from his brother, where Dalvin Cook's like the all-time leading rusher at Florida State, was this highly regarded guy. They both go in the second round, though, because I think physically and athletically, they're really similar, but Dalvin Cook was further ahead, reading blocks, inside zone, outside zone, understanding where he needs to push the front side before hitting the backside. I didn't think James Cook was anywhere close to Dalvin when it came to between the tackles running and understanding, hey, a block's coming this way, so I need to cut that way, or I can set up this block with this subtle juke to the outside. He's starting to get that a little bit more, and I think that's just the game slowing down for him. But like you mentioned, some motioning, moving parts on the inside of that blocking contingent, I think has kind of opened up some more room for James Cook in the middle to make it a little easier for him to spring those big gains. And he's hit a lot of those big plays in the last month.
Yeah, and Jess is adding something about the defense. He says he doesn't take too much from the defensive win there just because of the Pats offense, but he did like how the Bills just lined up and took it to the Pats defense with our run game. Totally agree. I think we're talking defense and offense. I think the Bills dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. And it was part of the reason why the run game was so good and so efficient. And I just loved what you said about, how each of them brings a different skill set here, because you're exactly right. And I went back and looked at some of the splits for this game and first down usage. So early down usage for both of them, they each had 44% of the snaps in the run game. Second down usage, but you saw Cook's number go up a little more to 54% to Motor's 31%. And I just love that, because on second down, regardless of what you got on first down, second down, that's really one of the Bills' money downs, especially Josh Allen, because they like to skip those third downs. And so putting a guy like Cook on the field more on second down runs it really just adds that dual threat type of player. Because as much as we like Devin and his running style and how shifty he is, and he has some explosiveness in his own way, Cook's a different animal when you talk about not just the run game, but also the passing game. To see that dual threat type of back, Cook getting 54% of the snaps on second down when we're talking runs, and then obviously some of those passes, because you saw Josh dump it down to him a bunch. That's the type of thing that changes box numbers too, right, Chris? Like having Cook in there, if you look at some of the box numbers, they're totally different when Devin's in there versus Cook, because teams are going to play more of those two high looks because they assume that when Cook's in there, it's going to be a pass. But Cook obviously can win versus those light boxes because the Bills can maximize his speed when he's in there on second down.
Yeah, I thought the right side of the Bills offensive line, it kind of felt like Ryan Bates and Spencer Brown really gelled. And there were times last season, especially late when Devin Singletary had all those touchdowns late in the regular season and into the playoffs, that Bates and Spencer Brown just were really connected on the right side of that line. I didn't look at the splits from that game, but watching it live and then rewatching it, it seemed like there were a fair amount of runs to that side, just leaning a little bit toward the right side of the line, where Spencer Brown, I think maybe he's finally fully healthy, because I thought when he came back from injury, didn't look good at all as a pass blocker, but that's really his bread and butter, is getting downhill, using his athleticism and just the torque that he creates with how much or how explosive he is. He can really pave some big lanes in the run game. And you don't necessarily have to have all five of your blockers just being amazing at creating those big holes. If one side of your line, and then you add in Mitch Morse, is really good at paving those lanes, you can really target that as an offense and run, I don't want to say the vast majority, but run more than half of your plays to that side if you know that you're going to probably have a one-on-one advantage with Morse, Ryan Bates, and Spencer Brown.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Bates, because I thought it was his
Bates
best
is so
game.
good. He's so good.
I thought it was his best game of the season, especially his pad level, because he's super athletic and explosive. But sometimes, and this happens with Spencer Brown too, because of his height, though, their pad level isn't always the best. It's not always low. But when you go against guys like Lawrence Guy or Devon Gotcho, like, you better play low, because they are, they're gap readers.
Hefty
so
dudes.
They stack, and they're shedders. They're hard to move. So when they're running those zone runs, when we're going to go over some of those in the film room, watch the pad level of Ryan Bates and watch the pad level of Saffold when they're coming off the ball and creating that horizontal displacement on some of those runs. But we're getting some updates again, this time from Aiden. Thank you for the super chat. He says, Dolphins lose, Chiefs lose, Bills #1 in the AFC. Let's fucking go. Absolutely, Aiden. That's great to hear. We appreciate the updates. And more importantly, we appreciate the super chats. If you guys are interested in getting your comment on the screen, hit us with a super chat. We'll bring it up as soon as we can. So with that said, I want to finish off with Cook real quick and then some red zone talk. So there was a quote I pulled from your eval of James Cook from the offseason, and I want to read it and then get your thoughts on maybe how you've seen him adjust and how he's improved this year. So your quote was, while not the most natural runner between the tackles, Cook plays and thrives on the perimeter, on handoffs, and when he's split out wide or in the slot. So that was, prior to this year, and it took a little bit for Cook to get involved and really get his feet under him. But what have you seen so far when it comes to him running in between the tackles? Because to me, that's been the biggest, aside from him adjusting to the play speed, his ability to run between the tackles. And you mentioned it at the top, Dorsey's helping him create some things up the middle with some eye candy and some of those bend back type plays. Like, let's hear your thoughts on Cook. Obviously, you're a big college draft guy. I want to hear your thoughts on his adjustment and so far this year for the Bills.
Well, I thought whichever team picked James Cook, that it wasn't going to be a hit the ground running situation for him, especially if that team was going to hand him the football like in single back and say, hey, run between the tackles, read what's happening in front of you. That's just really not where he thrived at Georgia. You could watch his entire 2021 season, and really Georgia didn't utilize him in that area very often. And a lot of times it was on those plays that he could bounce to the outside and win with his speed around the corner. But like we both mentioned, with motion before the snap to draw out a linebacker or widen a linebacker, a lot of pulling guards, wham blocks, trap blocks that allow him right away to kind of see that runway initially. I think that really helps him when early in the season, even going from the SEC to the NFL, and I say this all the time, it's a huge difference. The speed of the game, the speed of the 315-pound defensive lineman is significantly different. So when Georgia could just maul people
Yeah.
for James Cook last year. You just can't do that. And certainly the Bills don't have, a elite top 5 offensive line, but even if they were to that level, you're not going to see as big of holes. I think the last 3 or 4 weeks, maybe starting Packers game, Jets game, maybe right after that, we've started to see James Cook run with a lot more assertiveness, not being super patient behind the line of scrimmage. And I don't want him to be patient. I don't want necessarily James Cook to be waiting and just hit that first initial hole and hit maybe a cutback lane. He's kind of a one cut and go guy, where Devin Singletary, I kind of like him to be more patient and pick his spots because he has that jump cut skill that I don't really think James Cook has. And that's really not where he thrives. So I think it's not surprising, having just scouted James Cook, that it was going to take time. But as he's getting more run, and I think that's why he's getting more run, he's just reading his blocks inside a lot better. And then you could sprinkle in a lot of other things with him, utilizing him in the slot as a receiver in the screen game on swing passes and things like that.
Yeah, his vision, it was, and I'm going to admit it again, like, I thought it was bad. He was like, when you watch his film, he was so often, he was running up the back of his blockers instead of hitting a lane just off his hip. And, sometimes he was half a click late to get to that lane and that cutback lane. And as you said, Dorsey's doing some things to create some inside lanes. And it was surprising for me. There's his 2 best runs concept-wise this year have been crack tosses, getting him out in space. That's obvious. That's obvious because of his speed. That's one of his best concepts this year. But the mid-zone run, I broke it down with Sal yesterday. Like, I
saw that, it was good.
Mid-zone run there's a structure to a run. He has specific reads, and he has to methodically go through that. And he's doing that so much better, especially from under center. He's doing it so much better, rhythm-wise, timing-wise, sticking to his landmarks, and then reading the flow of the defense and making the proper cuts to get 25, 30 yards, as you'll see in some of the film today. I thought he's just gotten so much better in that area when we're talking the running back position. Because, again, it's a loose structure when you're talking about the running back position. A lot of it's feel. It's like stuff you can't really teach. And you're starting to see that pick up, and his confidence is obviously picking up as well. And so the last topic before we get into the film, red zone, man, I think this run game has, they didn't average, 4 or 5 yards a carry in this game when you look at their rushing. But I think adding that balance and that threat, especially in the red zone, helps this offense because it takes some of the pressure off of Josh Allen, right? It
for sure
allows him to not have to be Superman on every single play, take a breath. Especially, again, three games in 12 days, like, a lot's been on his shoulders. And, a lot of that stuff, they haven't been able to practice all that much. So having a run game added balance in the red zone. Howard Simon posted a tweet yesterday morning, I believe, about how the Bills have gotten better in the red zone. And I think that has to do with some of the rushing balance. So listen to this. The last 3 games, the run to pass ratio has been run 52% to pass 45%. Prior to that, the 9 games prior to the last 3, the ratio was pass 55%, run 38%. And I said that helps Josh Allen take a breath, step back a little bit. And if they're still getting 3 to 4 yards a pop, that is still efficient offense for the Bills. Because, again, it also helps with the time of possession, keeping the ball away from the other team, but also just give Josh a breather from play to play.
Now, listen, I am the biggest advocate of just throwing the football. And especially when you have an elite quarterback, you want to have Josh Allen drop back way more than you want to run the ball.
Yeah.
But in the red zone, I think you want pretty close to a 50-50 split that is probably leaning toward the run for any quarterback. I don't think any team is maximizing its efficiency or running optimally when you're inside the 10 and you're just 60-70% of the time throwing the football. There's just not as much. There's just not space.
Right.
When the opposing defense knows that the pass is coming, it's a lot easier for the pass rush. The defensive line's not worrying about anything with the run game. So absolutely, that's a great point that you found that stat and have noticed that on film, that the Bills are just running the football inside the red zone. I'm fine with like 55-45 run pass split inside the red zone, especially inside the tight red zone, inside the 10 and the 5. You got to be able to run the football there, regardless of who your quarterback is.
Yeah, because teams are, if you're just passing all the time, they're just going to drop guys to the 5 and goal line and just set a picket
fence. It's too tough.
Yeah, you saw what the Bengals did today to Mahomes, like they did last year in the AFC Championship game, is, drop 8 in the coverage, and just, it's tough to do when you, even if it is zone, like it's so tough because then in that condensed area, it's all about rhythm. It's all about quick game and getting the ball out. You can't just have your guy running around, even if there's only 3 guys rushing you. So with that said, let's get to some of this film, guys. If you guys have any questions, drop them into the chat room. We're going to get underway here in the film. So we have a bunch of plays to get to. Most of them are pass, but some of them are run. Again, the patience by Josh Allen and Ken Dorsey is really the theme of this episode and taking what the Patriots gave them. So on the second play of the game, the Bills get 19 yards off this sail concept, off of play action, something that we want to see more and more of. The Bills are down in play action percentage, but I just love the sail concept to Stefon Diggs, and more importantly, the placement inside, because you see the Patriots drop out in the cover 3, and this corner has to decide, am I going deep with this corner route, or am I going to stop and break off with Diggs? And you can see there's 3 guys there, but there's a nice passing window, and Josh throws it to the inside shoulder and completes it to Diggs, Chris.
What's so funny about this, and I thought this was one of those games where Josh Allen had about 6 or 7 completions that were the right read. I mean, he's reading that outside corner, like you're saying. If he bails with Gabriel Davis, which he does, that's where he throws it to Diggs. If he's really flying downhill, he throws it over the top. 5 or 6 throws that Josh Allen made look routine that were such amazing illustrations of how strong his arm is.
Yeah.
Like Kyle Duggar there on the 41-yard line, he's kind of actually playing this, I think, really well. And I would say about 2/3 of the league is probably checking it down to Dawson Knox on the 34-yard line. And that's a positive play for your offense. Breaks a tackle, it's probably a first down. Josh Allen being able to read this, and not only read that outside corner, but read Kyle Duggar, and then just flick the wrist and get it, like you said, ball location inside and get it there in a hurry. If that's a split second later, it's a really a contested catch, or maybe even an interception or a pass breakup, where it was just crazy watching it. I mean, I'm used to it now, watching as much Josh Allen as I do, watching every Josh Allen drop back. But like this, he's waiting, and then just the velocity and the accuracy, it just makes that play absolutely impossible to cover.
Yeah, and as I said, more play action, push the ball down the field, and just watch the little shoulder fake to Dawson Knox to kind of hold Duggar outside, right? I might have missed it here. Hold on one second. Here it is. Watch it. Look outside right there. He's moving his shoulder, his body, his eyes to Knox in the flats. And then again, now you see him set to like 1 o'clock and then throw it to Diggs.
It's not an easy throw.
Oh, from the left hash to outside the numbers.
That's not an easy throw at all.
No, great stuff there from Josh on that play. Mr. Diggs chimes in with a super chat. Thank you, Mr. Diggs. In my opinion, no jet sweeps at all this year. What gives? I talked about this with Sal. It's coming. They're setting it up.
They're setting it up.
They're setting it up, whether it's a run or pass. They're setting it up, and they're going to get a wicked big play because defenses have not even really paid attention to the jet sweep on those jet action motions where they're running their zone run. So I say patience, because it's going to come, it's going to pop out when you don't expect it, and it's going to be a really big play, whether it's a run or pass.
I have one question for you on that topic.
Yeah.
You pointed it out with Sal in your last video, in your last film room, which was fantastic, about all the window dressing. We talked about the motion. They're using like orbit motion, jet motion a lot more, especially in the run game. Is there any chance that Ken Dorsey, being kind of the mad scientist that he is, has kind of kept some of that with the run game under wraps? It seems like, to me, an offensive coordinator would almost be crazy to do that, because you won a couple close games that you could have lost. You don't want to keep things in the bag. But I think the fact that he's been able to do that, and the run game, I thought in the first 2 months of the season was pretty bland, and there wasn't a lot of that. Now to only sprinkle it in on December 1st, there's not nearly as many reps, as much film out there for opposing defenses. Do you think there's any chance that Ken Dorsey's kind of withheld a little bit of the creativity pre-snap, especially for the run game?
Yeah, I think there's a chance of that, but I think when it does come and they start to sprinkle it more, I think it's partly planned, but then you got to also think when it comes to Hines and what he is going to be with all these 21 personnel looks with him and Motor and him and Cook, that's something relatively new that he really has as far as toys go, because
true,
as
that's
good
a good
as
point.
McKenzie has been on those jet sweeps, he's not the shifty, pure natural runner of the guys that, like a Hines or a Cook or a Singletary. So
Yeah.
I think the wrinkles are installed. I think the concepts are installed, but the wrinkles are going to start to pop up more because of the time of the year, later in the year when you do have to lean on the run game a little more. Or
that's what I mean.
I don't think he's purposely like things aren't going all that well in the run game. Like we're going to hold back some things. I think everything's installed. I think, yes, they're just timing things a little bit. So it's hard for me to say semantics when it comes to, are they holding things that are just, restraining some things? I don't know. But I do think that the wrinkles are going to come out in specific situations against specific teams. So,
and they'll get some jet sweeps in there.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And as I said, corners and slot corners of the defenses that they've played the last month, they're not respecting it at all. So they're going to get those plays off. It's just a matter of time and that timing and situation when they do pull it out. So on to the next play, 2nd and 8 situation here, 14-yard gain on this play. And, I just love the movement prior to the snap by the Patriots because look at what they're doing. They're trying to confuse Josh Allen. Look at him. They have a 4-man surface, but then they bump down and bring Judon to the bottom. Now they had a different 4-man surface, but more importantly, they moved around the secondary. And this is confusing to not just Josh Allen, but as we're watching it, like, what coverage are they in? It's hard to really tell. And so I'm glad Josh Allen on this wave concept. This is a play that we've seen many times. We have those deep crossers, and this is one of Josh Allen's favorite throws to these crossing routes. This one with the coverage kind of murky, Josh says, you know what? I'm not going to press it. I'm just going to check it down. And he checks it down to James Cook, and he's able to get, 14 yards on this play. So this is smart. If you don't know what's happening on the defensive side of the ball with all this movement, it's murky coverage. You're not sure. Again, having a guy like James Cook as that outlet, as that safety blanket is a very good thing for this offense. Just look at the difference in this level and all these guys and how much space James Cook has, Chris.
Yeah, it's huge. And this game in particular, and really as Josh Allen has kind of moved out of that slump that he was in November, brings me back to an article that I read, which I'm sure some of the viewers read. You probably did too, Erik, from Albert Breer, like I would say in October, that part of the reason why the Bills signed Cole Beasley and John Brown and what Brian Daboll was hammering over and over again to Josh Allen was take the checkdowns and be quick with the checkdowns, do what Brady did. And when there is a confusing coverage and it might not be the best look for the route concept that you have, quickly get it to your back on the right side of his shoulder where it's leading him away from any other defender like he did here on this throw to James Cook. It was great ball placement underneath, a lot of velocity on it too. You can get chunk plays. And there were times in this game where, like you said, Bill Belichick did a great job disguising the coverage, but Josh Allen wasn't, oh, do I throw it? Oh, do I run? It was, don't like what I see, check it down. And then James Cook, you see the difference between him being a 4.42 guy and Devin Singletary being a 4.65 guy, turning that from maybe a 6 or a 7 yard gain into a first down and almost, an explosive play, 14 yards.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a very illuminating thing that I read from Albert Breer on that was a big part of Josh Allen taking the next step. He certainly did a lot himself with his accuracy and decision-making, but it was like, hey, take the easy completion, get it to 2nd and 10 or get it to 2nd and 2 or check it down and you can still get a 14-yard gain that way. Yeah. We started to see Josh Allen kind of revert back to 2020 Josh Allen when he got MVP votes over these last couple of weeks. And if James Cook can be that extension of the run game on plays like this where the secondaries are worried about, how many safeties are back and we got to be morphing our coverage post snap. All right, I'll just check it down and get 15 yards. Yeah. That is when the Bills offense is going to be impossible to stop because that he's still going to fit some of those tight window throws in down the field. If the quick game and the underneath stuff starts to work as well as it did under Brian Daboll, the Bills are going to move the football as well as any team in the NFL.
Yeah, and I just love this because it's something I pointed out in the Lions game where James Cook wasn't QB friendly. And you can watch Josh's helmet. He's going through his progression. So he's not even looking at Cook yet. But Cook is sitting right there in that passing window. But as Josh's eyes go from left to right, you see his eyes and helmet looking right now. And he slides to his right. Now watch James Cook stay in that peripheral of Josh Allen so that he is QB friendly. This is, again, this is something that he didn't do all that well as recently as the Detroit game. He does it there, and the Bills are able to get 14 yards, as you said, on that check down as the extension of the run game. It was just really, really good stuff. And later in this, I believe the same drive, 2:29 on the clock, first quarter, you're going to get this 28-yard run on a mid-zone run from James Cook. Again, the more and more confidence he gets, the better off this Bills offense is. And so this is a mid-zone run. So the aiming point is generally the inside leg of that tackle. And his first read is the first defensive lineman outside of the center there. So I have him circled there. So watch how he methodically goes through this read. As the ball is snapped, you see him landmark right there inside of the tackle. And you see that guy, that defender, jump into that B gap. So guess what? This is all taken away. He's not bouncing it outside. He's got to cut it back. So his eyes go right here to the defensive lineman, the nose tackle, and the linebacker Bentley. Then he's got a combo block here with Brown and Sweeney. And then Sweeney, boom, comes off of that block and picks up Duggar. You said it, Ben. Bates on this play gets that sled going. Sweeney, same thing. Create that horizontal displacement this way for the cutback. Cook presses the line of scrimmage right here. 1, 2, 3 steps, and then boom. The timing was just perfect. And again, that speed, getting into that third level versus McCourty, like this is the type of stuff that you didn't see consistently from Cook in college, but man, he's done this so well at the NFL level. I mean, he's got like 3 explosive plays of 15 yards or more on this concept alone. It's his number one concept when we're talking explosive run plays.
And I think what's important to know with James Cook, or just remember, is that he only carried the football 230 times in college. His brother carried the football almost 700 times at Florida State. So he was behind all those backs at Georgia. It's not surprising. It's not really an indictment of the mental capacity of James Cook. He's really like where Dalvin Cook was in his freshman season at Florida State in terms of his experience of, like what you just pointed out very well, all of those little intricacies of where his eyes need to go in real time as the play is happening. So it's not surprising that it's taken this long. And it's what I said earlier, that with Dalvin Cook, with this mid-zone type of run, you want one decision, one cut, and go. And then he obviously is able to use his athleticism to really leave Devin McCourty just like whiffing at, like, he doesn't even try to tackle him here because he's so fast through the second level. That's what you want from James Cook. You don't want him necessarily trying to string together multiple cuts in a run. That's not really his game. That's where Devin Singletary really excels and has excelled his entire NFL career. That type of run where it's you read that outside of the center tackle and then get to the linebacker, and then is it you keep on the front side or do you bounce it to the backside? One cut and then hit the afterburners, and that's what he was able to do there. He's starting to get acclimated to those intricacies of being a successful runner with his eyes, because he just really has not carried the football that often at a high level in college or the NFL.
Yeah, it just great stuff. And we're going to see a couple more of those runs from him on some zone runs and some other stuff with pulling tackles. So now the Bills are in the red zone here. They're in 11 personnel, 2nd and 8 situation, obviously an area that we want to see them improve in. And they have the last 3 games, as we talked about at the top. And I just love this play concept. Like you'll see as I let it roll, you're going to have multiple guys wide open. This is the touchdown pass to Stefon Diggs, but you have multiple guys open for a reason, because this is, first of all, it's got to start with scouting and the game plan. They obviously knew what coverage they were going to get on this play. And I just love this formation. It's not one they use all that often in the red zone. It's like a stacked look. And they run play action off of it. When they do run the ball, it's usually like an ISO or a lead play up the middle. And so the great part about this is you get the play action fake, but then you also get Dawson Knox leaking out that way. And he's one of the guys that's wide open. But Josh is locked in. He's got one-on-one coverage with his superstar from a tight alignment. He's got all this space out here to work with. So I understand him locking on here and waiting for Diggs to uncover. But the use of the eye manipulation here from Stefon Diggs, outside release, and then he peeks inside right there. And the corner obviously bites on that hard. You can see the body language of that corner, and then he just dips outside, and Josh is able to, wing it in there for a touchdown. Just a great design, great route from Stefon Diggs, and delivery from Josh Allen.
And we talked about Ken Dorsey utilizing more eye candy, window dressing, so to speak, just using Dawson Knox as kind of an H-back fullback there, and it looks like he's a lead blocker. Yeah. That's huge. Like that draws in those linebackers. And I think we probably will see Dawson Knox catch a pass in the red zone on this exact concept at some point throughout the season or the playoffs, because it's really hard to defend. It looks like a run play, and those linebackers are biting. You did a great job explaining it. I think, again, this is another play beyond the design where Josh Allen, like you said, he was locked in. Stefon Diggs is might be the best route runner in the NFL. He's probably top 3 in anyone's opinion.
Mhm.
Josh Allen knew if I get one-on-one, even if it's Jonathan Jones, who has played really well on the perimeter this season for the Patriots, there's no safety help over the top. You got to go to Stefon Diggs almost every time in that situation. I'm a big believer in the red zone, 3rd and short, 4th and short, in big situations. For as much as it's fun to look at scheme, look at play design, I want the team to put the ball in the hands of their best players. Don't try to put the coaching staff and the play design too much into the game. Say, hey, look, we need a touchdown here. We're going to let Josh Allen throw the ball to Stefon Diggs in a one-on-one situation. You're absolutely right on the design. We had, was it Isaiah McKenzie coming over the middle on the backside, open on kind of like a post route. So yes, the design was good, but this is another one where amazing route by Diggs. Yeah, amazing route by Diggs, but also the throw was perfect because this was still not a terribly defense play by Jonathan Jones. It was an amazing route. It still needed to be on the outside shoulder with a lot of velocity and in bounds, and it still was from Josh Allen.
Yeah, just great stuff on that play. I agree with you, man. Yes, it was a great design, but in those situations, in those critical situations, you got to rely on the Jimmies and the Joes, Josh Allen, Stefon Diggs, not the X's and O's. But one-on-one coverage for Diggs, I want Josh Allen more times than not going to him. So next play is a 8-yard gain from McKenzie. McKenzie's in the slot, and this is a route that was very similar to a route he ran in his big game. I believe it was last year, right, against the Patriots. Same type of thing. But what I love about it when he gets to the top of the route is he doesn't just break flat across the line right here. He does a great job of kind of working back towards the ball. You see right here, you see him comes back downhill with Josh throwing it under pressure, and that helps him separate from that coverage. And you can see that how much pressure Josh was under with Hines and Dawson Knox in the backfield. But here comes the pressure off the edge, and he opens the door. The edge rusher opens the door right there on Questenberry. Josh he kind of has to jump to get rid of it, but incredible throw on 3rd and 3. Unreal. So a manageable 3rd down play here. Good separation by McKenzie coming back from the ball for the ball, but one hell of a throw underdressed from Josh Allen.
Yeah, and what's really good about this too is that it shows the legitimate intricacy of the Bills pass game, their wide receiver coach, Chad Hall, Ken Dorsey, that if you go back to the other angle, Erik, that how Isaiah McKenzie at the beginning of this route, this looks exactly like that deep over that they love to run, where he kind of releases diagonally. It looks like he's going to run there. They run that a ton. You can almost see that slot corner is almost like getting ready to pass him off to that deep safety. And it's so it looks the exact same. It looks just like that. And great point by you to bring up that running back to the football, because if he runs flat, that corner in the slot can recover. That's, I believe, Jack Jones from Arizona State, who's super twitchy and got really quick feet. He could really easily run underneath that, either break it up or maybe even intercept it, especially with a pass rusher in Josh Allen's face. So those are the little things that I think separate the good teams from the great teams and the great teams from the elite and championship winning teams, making your routes look like other routes at the outset. And then, like you said, running back to the football. You run that route about 10 yards, you run back 3 yards, it's only 3rd and 3. You can still catch the football, land, and you're going to get the first down.
Yeah, it's just good stuff, and smart play by McKenzie to get up and go ahead and get some more yards after the catch here. So here's another James Cook run. This is a 7-yard gain. This is again one of the Bills' top rushing concepts. I've been tracking this stuff. Mid zone, crack toss, dart play. The dart play is just a tackle pull. So anytime you see any of the tackles pull, like you see on this, where Cook gets 7 yards, that is a dart play. Bills also run it with the quarterback, obviously, and just really good vision. Again, between the tackles here, you get the pull, and that guy kicks out Bentley there, and you can see right up inside is where James Cook goes. I want you to also keep an eye on Saffold here on this block, now how he's engaged and how he wins leverage here, uses his hand, chop down that guy, drop on top of him, and it's just an easy 7-yard gain here on a tackle pull. And it's nice to have tackles, regardless of who's in there. It's nice to have tackles like Spencer Brown that can pull.
Yes, Spencer Brown, I remember watching him at Northern Iowa, and it was like, this guy is so athletic. He looks like a tight end out there. He's gained a little bit of weight. I think he could still get even a little bigger, get a little more width to his game. but there's not like a lot of tackles in the NFL. There's some, but not a ton that you feel that comfortable having him come all the way across the formation, running in front of your 4-4-2 running back and getting that outside defensive end, pushing him out of the way on that block to allow that cutback. So that's coaching, smart play design to say, hey, look, we have truly one of the most explosive right tackles in the NFL. Let's utilize that athleticism where maybe he's not, the best road grader or an amazing pass blocker at this point, but we are going to tap into his strengths. And that's two explosive players, Spencer Brown and James Cook, executing a play almost perfectly. And to your point too, Roger Saffold getting to the second level helps spring that play for an easy 7 yards.
Yeah, and here's another one. Here's a 6-yard gain by Cook. And you guys are saying, we're seeing a lot in the comments how Cook is running back one and he may be taking over, passing of the torch type thing. I don't know if that's the case, but it's going to be hard to keep a guy out of the lineup when you're seeing these 5, 6, 7-yard runs on some simple concepts. Here's the same thing, a mid-zone cutback that we saw, much like that 28-yard gain. Look how quick and decisive he is. Boom. Get north and south. That's what you want to see, right, Chris? You talked about it. That's the type of runner he is. It's easy. It's an easy read. And we talked about Bates. Watch Bates get the sled rolling right here on the nose tackle. I mean, that's an easy cutback for James Cook. And, it's going to be hard for them to keep him out of the lineup when you can go under center, kind of change things up, give Josh Allen a break, add in some of that eye candy, and wait until they start adding the bootleg off of this, right, Chris?
Oh, absolutely. And I think they will. And that's going to be super dangerous. We're going to see a lot of open Dawson Knox, a lot of open Isaiah McKenzie, Gabe Davis, the whole passing contingent off that boot action once they utilize this. And I think you have to show this and show that you're effective doing it to really create those open windows off play action on that bootleg. But what I was saying here about James Cook making it an easy read, when you go back to the beginning of that play, when he gets the handoff, he sees 4 Patriots defenders clogging that front side. So that's easy in his head right away. That means I need to get to the backside. And the second he even moves his head slightly, he can see that gigantic lane again, paved by Ryan Bates, really doing a great job on Devin Godchow with that down block. So that's an easy read for James Cook. Even if those blocks are good on the front side, there's just too many bodies there. Yeah. 1 foot in the ground and then hit the accelerators 6-7 yards. The Bills are going to take that every single time.
Every single time, man. And you're right, man. He barely gets the ball. He's already making the cut. And that's the thing. When you run zone runs, whether it's outside, inside, or these mid-zone runs, more times than not, the blocks are making the reads or making the decision for James Cook. And this was an easy one. But again, north and south, get as many yards as you can and maximize that speed for this offense. And so on to the next play. We're in the second quarter, 5:34 on the clock, 3rd and 8 situation here. And this was a play that, I mean, from top to bottom, Belichick and Steve and Bill did a great job on this 3rd down. They really had Josh Allen stopped, but it doesn't matter because when you have a guy like Josh Allen who can play above the scheme, he can extend the play here, and he does, and he hits Gabriel Davis, obviously, and that as he tight walks the sideline right there, and he's able to throw the touchdown to Gabriel Davis. But I want you guys to look at this because right now, look at the coverage. It's actually really good. They're rushing 4, and they have a spy, but the coverage is really good. Everyone's pretty much covered up. Again, 3rd and 8, so you got to go for the end zone on this play. And so you'll see it from the end zone angle. That spy comes down on Josh Allen, and that's Mack Wilson, who's really, really an athletic linebacker. So here from the end zone, look, you see the edge rushers loop inside, and they're trying to pressure Josh and get him off the spot and funnel him to the linebacker, to the spy, much like the Bills did to Patrick Mahomes, funneling to Matt Milano. Mahomes was underdressed, threw the interception to Taron Johnson. This is the same type of approach and strategy here, but Josh Allen breaks the tackle, and he's able to throw Gabriel Davis open on this play for the touchdown. This is a player playing above the scheme, wouldn't you say, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those throws where I was watching the game with my dad, and I was like, that was all Josh Allen. That was completely Josh Allen being Josh Allen. And I agree, it was very similar to what the Bills did on that Taron Johnson interception to seal the win against the Chiefs, where you had Von Miller rush inside to funnel Patrick Mahomes to Matt Milano. If I'm a defensive coordinator facing Josh Allen, I'm not necessarily inviting him to break structure necessarily.
run.
Even if I have, I mean, Mack Wilson, I remember scouting him at Alabama. He is athletic. He was actually one of the lesser Alabama linebackers. He's played on a couple teams already.
Yeah.
I'm not trusting Mack Wilson to be able to corral Josh Allen in space. And if he does get to him and takes him down there, it's a great play. But that's the thing, that Josh Allen will play to the whistle on every single snap and shrug off a linebacker and then do like Derek Jeter, throw it behind his momentum across his body. And one quick point on this, and I got to say this, it's probably been talked about a lot, but yes, that's similar to the interception against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. You'll get 5 or 6 or 7 tremendous plays from Josh Allen doing things like that. And then you'll get 1 or 2 interceptions. You cannot ever, and I don't think it's possible to coach that completely out of Josh Allen. This is a time where Sean McDermott said he closed his eyes when the ball was in the air. You want Josh Allen making those plays. And I just wonder if after this, teams are going to not necessarily say, hey, let's rush our defensive ends inside to kind of create Josh Allen's lane outside of the pocket, because I think he, even more so than Patrick Mahomes, because of his running ability and how he can shrug off a linebacker, he is the scariest quarterback outside of structure in the NFL.
Yeah, and I'm glad he's on the Bills because this is just amazing. As you said, you got to take the good with the bad. More times than not, this works. And he's gotten better with that over the years. But every once in a while, he is going to throw one, like you said, to the other team from that Packers game a few weeks ago. So on to the next play here, 2nd and 2 situation. Defense is in cover 3 here. They rotate from a 2-high structure. We got Stefon Diggs right here, bottom of the screen. Simple route concept here. We're in the 2-minute drill. This is an 8-yard game, but watch, everyone's running all curls. But when he hits the top of that route, he could see Diggs looking at Allen, and Allen hasn't delivered it yet, so he's not really anticipating the break here. This is what I love about receivers. Like, be QB friendly, get open, uncover, and he does. Diggs extends that route to the sideline. Josh can use that big arm to complete this pass here. Again, this is a simple concept in the 2-minute drill. But this is why Stefon Diggs is who he is. He uncovers for his quarterback, and they are able to move the chains.
Yeah, it's the perfect illustration of the connection that Stefon Diggs and Josh Allen have. Like you mentioned, Diggs understanding, hey, he's not throwing it yet. Why? Is he not liking what's behind me? Where's the cornerback? Works back to the football. And then Josh Allen being able to kind of have that cerebral connection and just fire a fastball to, again, perfect location toward the sideline, not a little bit inside, not to the inside shoulder, but the outside shoulder. They have that connection, and Josh Allen can throw with anticipation. He does it a lot, but he can also wait if he needs to, if he's not completely sure, and then just uncork a laser, which, again, this is another one of those throws. He kind of hitched a little bit because he wasn't sure, because Jonathan Jones was on top of that route, where Josh Allen just makes a simple comeback, all comeback route combination look like an easy completion, where him, Mahomes, Justin Herbert, probably the only 3 quarterbacks that can connect on that throw. And having an elite wide receiver is a huge benefit for this Bills offense. Having those 2 on the same page is gigantic.
Yeah, and we're going to continue on this play. This is a 19-yard gain on 3rd and 4. We're in the 3rd quarter, 5:39 on the clock. And this was a play actually designed for James Cook off the motion here. They're trying to take advantage of the man coverage with Duggar following Cook here. But Duggar does a great job of working through the traffic as the ball snaps. See, Josh wants to hit it like he hit McKenzie earlier in the game, but Duggar does a good job of working through that little rub right there. So Josh has to move on his progression, does a good job of scanning the field. But most of the guys are covered. Yes, he could get it to Knox right here, but I mean, it's going to be close to whether he gets a first down or not, because there is a guy on him. So he extends the play, and he's looking at Diggs right here. And this throw, it's just beautiful, especially from the end zone angle. He's able to thread the needle to Diggs down the field. So again, playing above the scheme. The defense took away his first option. He scans the entire field while moving the pocket, and then right here, again, threads the needle. Look at the high and outside placement where only, the defender's in good position. He's almost making a play on the ball, but this is where that superstar Stefon Diggs reels it in for the first down.
Yeah, and there's like no lower body to that throw from Josh Allen, because there is, I don't know who that 95 right in his grill, and he's not able to step into this throw. He's got to kind of sling it sidearm. It's Josh Allen playing above the scheme, but it also is just a reminder to everyone in the NFL that Josh Allen is not just a fastball thrower who sees the first read and throws it as hard as he can. He got through multiple reads on this play under duress, slid to his right outside of the pocket, and then delivered an absolute strike that was perfectly placed. Like you said, not just on the outside shoulder, but high and outside, because Jonathan Jones probably makes a play on that. I mean, he almost did get the pass breakup.
Yeah.
It had to be high and outside. It was a really good example of Josh Allen playing above the scheme. You're absolutely right. But to me, how mentally far ahead he is. He's not just this big physical quarterback that can throw fastballs and deep balls all over the field. He understands, all right, I don't have the original play design. I got to get to number 2 and maybe even number 3 on some routes and still hit big plays. And he did there.
Yeah, he leaned on Diggs in this game, obviously. And we talked about maybe he didn't anticipate that L curls concept. Well, watch to the bottom of the screen. This is, again, this is something the Bills only do 15% of the time. They don't often put Josh Allen under center and run these type of 5-step drops or passing game from under center. But it's something we're going to see a little more as we see more of that eye candy from Hines and whatnot, and incorporating those 2 running back sets. But just watch how quickly Josh reads this. He's got the one-on-one coverage. You see Diggs snapping off that route and balls getting ready to get delivered. Diggs is just coming out of his break, balls on him. That's the anticipation we like to see between Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, it is pretty unusual, and there's no play action here. You mentioned it earlier. I think the Bills could be a little bit closer to like 30% with their play action than I believe they're like 22, 23%, or at least going into the Patriots game, they're like 23 or 24.
I think it's 24, yep.
24. And it's not a play where Josh Allen is checking it down, and we just illustrated that when there isn't a ton of pressure initially, he can get through his reads. But to me, it was almost what Josh Allen has needed to do or did need to do when he was going through that slump where everyone's like, just take the check down, take what's there, don't try to do anything special. He could have held on to this football. He could have looked at that vertical route to Dawson Knox coming off the line, or Isaiah McKenzie, or actually that's Smoke Brown coming down the numbers on the other side. He just knew, I have this comeback to Stefon Diggs. It's going to be close to a first down. That's almost where the quick game and Josh Allen processing quickly and saying, look, I'm just going to take what's there. I'm not going to try to do too much. I'm not going to hold this ball. He's done a much better job picking and choosing when he should extend a play, or, hey, it's there, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to throw it to an elite wide receiver in Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, great placement outside and low so that Diggs can spin to the boundary and get up the field to get some more yards after the catch. So on to the next play. And this is something, we talked about that. I think it was the second play where he got to his check down quickly because it was a murky coverage. This is something that he did a lot of when the Patriots, and he did this last year too. Anytime the Patriots showed that Tampa 2 look, they dropped those guys out. He immediately went to the check down. He does that here versus Cook. And it's nothing crazy. Again, there's nothing to this play. As soon as they drop out, he's like, you know what? That's an extension of the run game. I can get 5, 10, 15 yards by just checking it down quickly to Cook. And that's what he does here. And he did that several times in this game, Chris.
I've seen Tom Brady make that throw probably 800 times in his career. And there's I don't know why I just thought of this, but I remember I posted a video, I think on Twitter, like years ago, where I noticed the same play. I believe it was against the Titans, where it was a Tampa 2 look, and Tom Brady did the exact same thing. It was in the red zone, I believe, where it was almost like, we call it a check down, but it almost appeared like that was the first read on the play, where it's like, if they're in Tampa 2, and it was like Tom Brady like looked at Gronkowski and then just immediately hit the check down, and it was like went to James White for an 8-yard gain. I'm not calling Josh Allen Tom Brady, but that is the things that aren't flashy, that are not making a highlight reel, but help the offense move the football a lot more efficiently, where, again, he's taking what the defense gives him. He's not waiting and then not liking what he sees and hitting the check down. He's hitting it right away. You get 7 or 8 yards. And then how do you stop the Bills on defense? Because if you're so worried about over the top stuff and they can hit it to their running back on essentially the first read, they're really, really difficult to stop. And I've liked that I've seen that from Josh Allen over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and one thing I really liked in this game, as we wrap up the last couple plays here, is in this game specifically, how I called this play. Dorsey was being sneaky because,
Yeah.
from all intents purposes, normally this is a duo run where everyone's kind of blocking down on guys. They're getting those
Doubles.
double teams, and they're getting the ball right up the field, and they're getting downhill. But they set it up differently, man. Like, that's what it shows here. And the defense assumes it's coming because they run this every week, like 2 or 3 times. But you see the motion by Motor Singletary. He changes his alignment, and then that goes into a zone read play. So now that quick motion's happening. They're snapping the ball before he even gets set. And now Josh is reading Judon here. Nice punch from Spencer Brown, the right tackle there. Gets up on Bentley, and then there's just no way Judon can get there quick enough. And you can see how excited and Josh Allen was on that play. I really like this play, Chris, because of how they set it up. And I want to set this up and then get your thoughts on the play from Dorsey. But on Thanksgiving, again, same look, guys. This is a dual call. And look at how prepared the Lions were. The Bills on 3rd and 1, they love to run this play in short yardage situations. This is 3rd and 1. But the Lions were actually ready. It was Singletary that played above the scheme on this play. You see the defensive tackle get up the field, but Motor makes him miss and he gets the first down. So they get 3 yards. But again, formationally, teams are picking up on this. Same game. Here's another situation, 3rd and 1. And you can see the Bills put Shakir into the formation. They bring Motor, and the Lions know what's coming. You can see them calling their play right there. They're bringing one of the defenders down on the tight end. And watch what they have set up. They have a nice little cross dog blitz going on where the linebacker is going to be free and have the running back in the hole, but he's not able to bring them down. They get the 2 yards and get the first down. So on paper, on film, Chris, we're seeing this play a lot formationally. So it was cool to see Dorsey throw in a little wrinkle in there, as you said, and catch the Patriots off guard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Ken Dorsey has been like hiding all of this, but it shows that he's able to make in-season adjustments and almost think ahead in that chess match that not only goes on in an individual game, but throughout the course of a season. And as you get into the playoffs, you have 17 games of film out there that you need to be able to show what you've done a million times in the season and then audible right before the snap and get off of it. On this play, I think what's so interesting is that I believe 48 is Jelani Tavai, who ironically was a Detroit Lion. He was a Matt Patricia pick, second rounder out of Hawaii a couple years ago. He thinks this is still duo because, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you know duo's coming in short yardage and you're a linebacker, the best thing to do is just get downhill and not allow whoever that is, the center or the left guard, to get to you at the second level. So he probably felt like, hey, I'm going to blow this play up. It's going to be duo, but it's not. And that's why there's essentially a walk-in touchdown for Devin Singletary. So you're correct in that being able to quickly audible to this zone read look from what the Patriots and that linebacker thought, hey, this is going to be duo. I got to blow up that double team. He kind of plays himself right out, or he runs himself right out of the play that he could have been that extra fill linebacker had he understood that the Bills were, running that duo play, but they were smart enough to audible out of that right before the snap and go to that zone read. And I think that's why he walks in.
Just this good stuff. Again, the timing of it. I mean, some of the red zone issues we've seen this year has been timing, rhythm, dropped snaps, stuff like that. Look at the timing of the motion, how Bates lets more snow. It's like all in rhythm. And then again, we talked about Bates. Watch him move Gacho there, like totally wipe him out of the play there. No, man, like he's so underrated as a nose tackle and defensive.
Both of those nose tackles there.
Yeah.
Both of the Patriots nose tackles are good, man.
Just awesome stuff. Fun film to break down with you in this game, and something we're going to do in the future. Man, I'm happy with that win, especially when you talk about them stacking wins the last few weeks and working through that adversity. Obviously, getting their first win in the division is incredibly huge. Everyone is happy in the chat room. We appreciate everyone joining us. Bills are obviously the #1 seed as of right now. Everyone's super excited about that, and we share your excitement with you. But it was fun to break down the film with you, Chris, man. We got to do this again sometime.
Yeah, this was awesome. Reach out at any point. We're in the stretch run. The one thing that I want to finish with, the run game, I think getting better for the Bills. To me, and I said earlier that I'm the biggest proponent that the Bills should be up there 60, 70% throwing the football when you have Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs. the underrated element of the run game getting better, it's not the play action gets better. That's like the fallacy that everyone thinks you got to run well to have play action work. You know that.
Yeah.
Is that I think it really not derails, but it mitigates the opponent's pass rush. When they come out and they are thinking, hey, the Bills are going to throw the ball 70% of the time this game. It's 2nd and long. They're throwing the ball. It's a lot easier for those defensive ends and interior rushers to just get up the field. But when now you're seeing James Cook break off 6, 7, 8, 10-yard gains, I think it just keeps those defensive linemen a split second more at bay where they can't just pin their ears back. I think, and if you get Josh Allen not under pressure as much, where he can scan the field and get through those reads like we pointed out in the film room, that's, again, where the Bills can be super dangerous offensively. So the run game getting better, just being more efficient certainly helps. But I think it helps slow down the opposition's pass rush if they have to respect James Cook and Devin Singletary.
Totally, man. They can't just pin their ears back and go after Josh Allen, his spot in the pocket. That's totally true. I love that point. But before we get everyone out of here, again, we appreciate everyone joining us. I want to tell you guys about our premium subscription. That's One Pass. Become an insider today for $57 for the year. You get in-depth content, stuff behind a paywall on the website, cover1.football. But you also get access to our Slack channel, all of our contributors and whatnot. And it's pretty cool because like all of our contributors and creators are in our Slack channel, so you can ask them questions. We talk football all day. There are different channels that you can talk football. You can talk film. You can talk analytics. Like we have a chat room for everything. So if you're not an insider, please join and support our cause. The only way we're able to do this in-depth content, whether it's with the PFF memberships, Sports Info Solutions, Huddle, which is what we use for the Telestrator, all of these different tools and resources we have because of our insiders. And of course, bringing on guys like Chris, it's another tool that we can use for them. And we're able to bring on Chris because of our insiders. So if you're not an insider yet, please join up and become an insider. We couldn't do it without you. And honestly, we couldn't do tonight's show without Chris. So Chris, let everyone know where they can find you on social media and what content you have going this week.
Yeah, on Twitter and TikTok at Chris Trapasso. I try to watch as much film as you, Erik. I don't know if that's possible, but I try to, and I try to post as many TikTok videos as possible. And what's cool is this time of year, I'm still doing a lot of regular NFL stuff. Once we get into January, February, it'll be mostly NFL draft. But with the Bills being good, it's certainly a more fun time of the year here in Western New York. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you in the film room next week. I'll have some videos here and there over the next few days breaking down some more of this game because we got a long week ahead. So I want to get some more content out there for you guys, maybe some more specific breakdowns on individual players. But as always, thank you for joining us in the film room. We'll see you next week.